I'll second it. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Congratulations on your appointments and promotions. Someday we'll get back to the handshake thing. Yeah, virtual high five. All right. Moving on, general agenda items. We have an update on the mayor's policing task force. Mayor, do you want to give us a quick update?
Sure, I would love to. So right now, we're kind of in the thick of the planning for the community engagement portion. So that, what that looks like is we're working with WIPs, and we're using a series of listening sessions that they're hosting to kind of figure out what do people need, what kind of information do they need about our police, what do they think, if there are issues, what do they think those are? If there are great things, what do they think those are? So this is kind of just big information gathering time, and then that will help kind of land us towards a series of more strategic questions that we'll ask in a community survey, but this is more of a open-ended kind of a thing. So I'm really excited. It looks like we're going to get started right away in February. So I feel like we're marching in the right direction. It feels, you know, task forces are slower than you always want, but it's really good. It's methodical. I think we've had really good discussions at that level. So thanks to everyone who's participating.
Any questions for the mayor? All right. Thank you, Mayor. All right, next is discussion and possible action on the fire chief recruitment plan. All of us by now have received either a call or notification that Chief Kajawa has announced that she would be retiring April 1st. I have the date right, correct? April 1st, yep. It was April, but April 1st. I just first want to start by acknowledging the chief, and I know we'll have an opportunity to do that hopefully a couple times, and certainly at the end of her official tenure. But I was part of the group that brought in Chief Kajawa almost 6 years ago, I think it was, and then she continues to give me a hard time about leaving shortly thereafter. But it was a pleasure getting to know her through that recruitment process. The department was in a very different place at that point in time. We had a consultant that we hired. We went nationally. We had a number of great candidates across the nation when we applied or put this job out at that time. And little did we know that our person was 30 miles south in Stevens Point. And so we were very excited to get Chief Kajawa at the time. And I think she's done everything that we had hoped that she would do in her time here, at least in my eyes. You know, she's changed the culture in the department. She's built leadership and the opportunity for succession within the department. And she's just really done a great job in terms of elevating the standards of what the Wausau Fire Department is all about. And so in my eyes, I just greatly appreciate all that you've done in your career and greatly appreciate your time for the city. And I look forward to celebrating and end capping your career here as part of the Wausau Fire Department. So congratulations again. And if you'd like to say anything, please step forward and say anything that you'd like for the commission.
I guess I really don't have too much to say. I just, as I had mentioned in my email or when I had spoken to each of you individually, and when I spoke to the mayor, of course, it's been a real pleasure to have served the Wausau Fire Department and this community as a whole. Obviously, I wasn't from this community, but was welcomed into this community, and it's just the people that I've been able to work with has just been tremendous. And although it was a little bit of a difficult decision for me right now, I think that overall we're really in a very good place at the Wausau Fire Department. And I think I just feel it's time. It's time to get new leadership in there, to get new perspective in there. I've been the chief there for almost 7 years, and I don't want to lose that enthusiasm. I still love coming to work, but I can feel that drive fading. And I don't want to go out with the drive faded. I don't want to stick around longer than because I think that's detrimental to the department. And I think we have really, really great leadership that's going to move forward and continue this department in the right direction. So I just think it's a really a right time for me and a right time for our department and our community. And I'm just so thankful that, Michael, that you and Mayor Tipple and the others, the Police and Fire Commission at the time, which Cheryl, you were a part of at the time, right? And Bill? Bill's not here today, but yeah. And we're part of that decision-making process, and I'm just so grateful that you gave me the opportunity to serve. So, that's it.
Thank you very much. So further discussion on the fire chief recruitment plan. I just want to outline where I think we could go with this, and then obviously open that up for discussion for the rest of the commission today. First off, I start always with any of these major decisions with the obligations that we have under the statutes and the Police and Fire Commission manual that we have as it relates to this process. And Article 5 in there is really what outlines the appointment process for the chiefs. And we've spent a lot of time talking about that. And I think that there's some things that can happen all at once. If we can get this going, the sooner the better. I think one of the first things that we need to do is publicize that we're recruiting for a position, this position. The decision that we make on that is whether we want to do internal or external recruitment, and whether or not to use a consultant. I think that given the position of relative strength that we have, and this is me speaking, relative strength that we have within the department for candidates, that we can have confidence in our HR department to post the position and not have to rely on a consultant to do a nationwide search. To look within the state and the region, the title of the position will draw interest no matter what of people that are ready to become a chief. And I think that my personal experience, and I think for us to move forward and do the best for our citizens, is to make sure that we have the best person for the job. And that means that we post the position and externally look as well as internally. And that's not in any way a decrement to the people that we have internally that'll be applying for the position, but I think it sharpens them in the process, and then certainly gets buy-in and credibility that they compete against the best, and they are the best. And so I think that that's the process that I would like to embark on. As we do that, we need to make sure a couple things that are in process that I think would hold up the start, which would be updating the job description, and really that's the city's. Tony forwarded it to me. I'm not sure if she forwarded it to the whole commission. I think it speaks for itself. I don't have anything to add to that, and again, that's the city's obligation, as well as to review the compensation for the position to make sure it's competitive. Again, I'll rely on the city to make sure that that's the case as we go into this. And then for us, it's really preparing for the interviews and what we're looking for while that posting's out. Generally I would recommend probably 4 to 6 week type period to give people the time to see it, to apply for it, and then rely on our HR department to do the screening. We can certainly talk about how we want to screen, but minimal qualifications obviously is the first benchmark, and then we look at the best qualified there, hopefully getting to a point of 3 to 5 candidates. That's our goal. So if we get to a point with the HR department where we have more than that, then I think as a commission we should get together and talk about how to maybe narrow that down. But if that's the result, is we have 3 to 5 great candidates, then I really truly think we're on to an interview process at that point. And so given all that in the timeline, I would like to set a target for March 22nd, which is our March meeting, to maybe potentially schedule those 3 to 5 interviews. And if we can get to a point during that interview process where we've got our candidate, we could appoint them before Chief Kajawa's last day, which would allow for a nice transition. Obviously, if we're not in a position that's going to extend, and then at that meeting we would have to consider an interim chief. But at this point, I think we've got some time to work with, and would like to get that process going. And I think that's just a general overview of I guess, as I see it, how the process would work from my experience in just reviewing the articles, but certainly this is a discussion and a decision of the entire commission. So with that, I'll ask for any other input or consideration.
Well, what I would say is thankfully you have the experience, so that's a good start, and I agree with your recommendations.
Thank you.
I do too. I agree, Mike. I think we should move forward with your plan.
Okay, Mr. Harris, anything you'd like to add?
Oh, sorry, still on mute. I would agree as well.
Great. The one thing I did leave out that I would ask us to consider or participate in, as we've done in other recruitments at this level, is do listening sessions. I don't think we have to wait to do that first before it's posted, but for us to be able to narrow down and know what we're looking for, I do want to tap the wisdom of the department, as we've done with the police department, the fire department in the past. So I would ask that, in the next month or so, that we schedule some listening sessions for the commissioners that would want to participate in that. And then we're probably going to have to do those virtually, but I think doing that with that group, or potentially we could do it in person in a large auditorium. We'll figure the logistics out, but I do think that's an important thing. Then we'll know exactly what we're looking for.
I like that idea.
And that was a recommendation of Bill Graff as well.
Yep.
With the police chief recruitment, we combined a survey with in-person listening sessions. So I think perhaps we could do a survey combined with virtual listening sessions that might help out during our current pandemic needs.
Sounds great. Okay, well, if there's no further discussion, let's get that job posted and, hopefully work towards that March 22nd date. I think that would be great for the department and for the candidates involved and getting that moving. So, thank you. Okay, next is the monthly presentation of fire department operations. Chief?
So if there's no questions on the activity report, what I'd like to request is that we postpone the second agenda item, the advancement in EMS. I'd like to maybe postpone that for now, and I'll bring it back next month, if that's all right. And then the last item I have is just a National Fire Academy graduation. Bob, why don't you just come up? So Chief Bartek, last week, we actually went through a ceremonial process where Chief Bartek was actually honored with his diploma for graduation from the National Fire Academy. And the National Fire Academy is actually located out in the eastern part of the country, and it holds high esteem within the fire service itself. And this program, he went out there to actually move through the Executive Fire Officer Program. And this program is designed to provide senior leadership in the fire service a broad perspective on different facets of administration. So Chief Bartek was required to take 4 courses through this academy and then write 4 applied research projects associated with the topics of that particular course. The 4 courses that he actually were required to take and it's a 4-year program. It's 2 weeks of class, so he would go out there, except for your last class, it was actually virtual, but he would go out there for 2 weeks. They would train extensively for those 2 weeks, and then he would come back, obviously, to the fire department, and then he was required to do an applied research project. And I think he had to have that in within 6 months, but it had to be pertinent to the coursework that he actually did out at the academy. So the different courses that he actually took were the first one was kind of an entry-level course, executive development. The next course was executive analysis of community risk reduction. And then the third course, executive analysis of fire service operations and emergency management. And then the final course that he just completed in December here was executive leadership. So Those four courses were the requirement, along with the applied research projects, for him to attain that graduation level certificate. So we were, last Thursday, they had a virtual graduation, and we actually did it in our kitchen, Mayor. You were there. Actually, the mayor came over and celebrated with us, but we were able to give Bob his certificate, not as glorious as he would have gotten out at the National Fire Academy, but certainly a celebration. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Bob, and let you talk a little bit about your program.
Sure. Well, first I'll just thank Chief Kajal. When I came here, I was midway through that process. I'd actually applied 3 times prior to getting in. The program's very difficult to get in. They only allow in about 180 fire officers across the country annually. And right now they're backed up. Obviously, they haven't let anybody in new lately. But when I came here, that was one of the hurdles I was going to have as I was midway through the program. Chief Kajawa threw her support behind me right away. I started April 8th, and then in May, I left her for 2 weeks to go to the academy.
I was used to being alone.
So, and then my applied research project that I wrote for this department after that was pointed towards one of the roles that she had assigned to me, which was policy development. And I wrote an applied research paper on the normalization of deviation from organizational policy. And that was actually my shortest applied research paper at 79 pages. They're just like master's thesis papers, these applied research projects. And I actually got my best grade on my shortest paper, and how that happened, I don't know. Maybe the title just threw him for a loop. So I appreciate Chief Kajawa's support greatly. I should have completed the program last April, and COVID threw a horseshoe into that. And then we finally wrapped up in December with an online course. I started mid-October, and then right at the same time that Chief Kajawa had her knees replaced, I was in the middle of the class, and so it was a fun fall, but we got through it. I appreciate her continued support, the support of this community, the mayor's support. It meant a lot for me to have you at the graduation ceremony. Not quite what I was hoping or expecting from the National Fire Academy and the graduation ceremony. It was actually kind of a letdown, but I've heard rumor that there's a lot of talk in the upper levels that will improve for the next courses out of ours. So just thank you very much for your support, and you'll be seeing my EFO status on my resume soon.
Great. Chief Kajawa, just one more question for you, real quick. So looking down later, just this is out of curiosity, but the police chief has an update on vaccinations. Where's the department at with vaccinations now that you guys can participate?
Yeah. So we got our first round the end of December. So the second round's coming to our department. Actually, some of them already got it. So the second round's coming due here late January.
And what are you guys looking at in terms of participation? I'll ask you the same question, Ben, so.
About 60%.
60%. That's about what we have for our organization, too.
I think that's, we kind of did a scan, and I've talked to other chiefs throughout a couple of chiefs in the state, Madison being one of them, and they were at about 60% as well. I think that's pretty standard. It seems like that's pretty standard.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, Chief Blevin.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I have a number of things on the list to update the commission on, and hopefully it won't take too much time. The first item is a discussion regarding our written test. I sent an email out to the commission just advising that in consultation with Mr. Loy and Tony, we decided to forego the written test for our current hiring process. And there's a number of reasons for that. Historically, we've used that written test in order to screen out candidates when we get a large number of candidates in our recruitment pool. Well, over the last several years, we've seen a reduction in those numbers, and the test isn't necessary in order to screen and reduce the number of candidates that we're interviewing. So that was one reason. There are a number of other reasons, but largely when we did the last recruitment, we had some significant struggles actually administering the test with COVID protocols. And so, that was really what drove us to asking if we can bypass the written examination for this most recent process. And that was the purpose behind it. I think our manual, our PFC manual, if you look in Article 6 that we wrote, it doesn't really give discretion to use that written test or to eliminate that written test for a process, actually. And I guess that's why I asked for the agenda to indicate possible action regarding written test and hiring process to, in case the commission wanted to consider giving discretion to me in that hiring process of police officers. So I can certainly talk more about that or answer questions about that if you guys wanted to talk about it.
Strictly speaking, the manual says that what the process may consist of and doesn't require that it consist of it, but it is silent on who makes that determination. So.
Yeah, I didn't see the word may in there, but
Oh, sure.
maybe I misread that. I've read it a few times, but actually I read it again this morning. I didn't see that in there. It just talks about what the process is, and then it lists the steps. I don't think it says that we're allowed to discontinue that.
I recall when we discussed this before that it was silent on who gets the right to waive. Any discussion or questions from the commission relative to that issue?
I have no questions, but I do think it should be in the discretion of the chief, would be my recommendation.
I actually do have a question. Not that I do agree that I think it should ultimately be in the chief's discretion. However, I just wanted to know, do you believe, in terms of these written tests, do they have any other value, you believe, in terms of looking for candidates? And do you believe, and I guess the second part to that is, have you thought about if you do think these have actually have some other value other than just sort of just generally weeding out? Do you think it would be useful to use it after you've kind of weeded out the general population, you've gotten it down to sort of a select number of candidates?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I don't feel that there's a ton of value in terms of what we gain in seeing the results of each candidate's examination score. It's a general aptitude test that, there's a math portion, a writing portion, a reading comprehension portion of the exam, and almost always anybody that fails the math portion of the examination. It is a pretty basic math test, but when I think about the requirements for math in our current job, I don't think the test really demonstrates what math is necessary. If there is math that's necessary, we have access to Excel spreadsheets, calculators, that kind of thing, and usually when we're doing math, it's how much value of items were stolen from a burglary or a theft scene or something like that, and our computer does that for us when we enter the information into the report system. So I don't think there's a lot of value in that. The people coming to us are required to have 60 college credits, so they have already demonstrated some writing, reading comprehension, and math skills because they're required to have 60 college credits. So I don't think it adds a ton of value.
Okay, Commissioner Barr, anything?
Yeah, I think it can be at the discretion of the chief. I agree.
So I would just say there's two risks that we're trying to hedge for in our process. One is that we hire the people of greatest character, and the second is that we don't have a disparate impact on different populations. So, and there's a legal aspect. So I would concur with the recommendation to give this discretion to the chief, but I would say in consultation with the HR director, just to make sure that there's not a potential for disparate impact through the process. But I'm fine with that if that's okay with the commission. And I guess in terms of memorializing that, I would recommend that we modify the Police and Fire Commission and potentially just do that in the first article or one of the earlier ones that applies across the board through all the processes that we can consider as a formal action.
If it's okay with the commission, Tony and I could look at language and make a recommendation for our February meeting then.
That'd be great. Unless, any other comments or recommendations from the commission? Okay. Thanks, Ben.
You bet. Thank you. So I just wanted to give an update on the homelessness task force that, we've had the homeless homeless task force officer in place for several months now, and we did recently, in conjunction with North Central Healthcare, leased a home on McClellan Street at 620 McClellan, where we're able to house individuals who are chronically homeless and are volunteering to work with North Central Healthcare on their mental health and AODA issues. And so we do have 4 individuals in that house right now. For the last month or so, we've had at least one of them that has been COVID positive, so it's really kind of stymied our efforts in working directly with those individuals. So Eric Lemerond is our homeless task force officer. We continue to get feedback, and the mayor too, in terms of Eric's interest, his, the great work that he's doing in really building relationships, not just with individuals who are chronically homeless, but with others in our community who are working in that nonprofit sector around homelessness. And so I think we've gotten some really good results. Eric and Monica both have gotten people into inpatient treatment programs, both for mental health and for AODA issues. He's been able to get people connected with long-lost family members, and really has made significant progress in getting people off of the streets. And I think it's a tribute to both Eric and Monica and the ability they have and the care that they have for people in our community that are really going through some difficult times. So I just wanted to give you that update. I think probably in the next couple of months, we will, in conjunction with North Central Healthcare, be doing an evaluation of our program to see, what recommendations we might have for long-term with that program. Mayor, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that. I know you've been pretty involved in.
No, I would just say the feedback I'm getting has been almost completely positive. And I think the results, I think we're going to be really pleased when we analyze it. But we're also going to be faced with, what do we do going forward? Who's in charge of this? But we'll get to that when we get there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who's in charge of it? How's it going to be paid for long-term, and those kinds of questions. But it's a good problem to have, so that we can continue to make positive impact. The next item is firearms transition. I just wanted to make the commission aware that we are transitioning away from our .40 caliber firearms to 9mm firearms. We're staying with the Glock manufacturer. Our city, we brought a request for that, for the financing of that transition to our city council early December, which was approved, and we'll be making the transition over the next couple of months to a 9mm firearm. So, any questions on that?
I don't know any significance of that for the commission to.
Not
consider?
really. I mean, it was really a fiscal decision, and the new generation of .40 caliber firearm is going to be a different size. So there was a financial component in terms of we'd have to transition to different holsters and that kind of thing. So long term, we decided that we would want to transition to 9mm. A lot of law enforcement agencies across the country are doing that. So we had the opportunity with some budget savings, so we made that request now to offset that in the future.
Any questions for Ben?
Okay. Update on our videographer, community communications specialist position. That's a position that we've had for a couple of years now, and we've seen some really great success, really great interest from around the community and actually around the state about the work that our videographer's been doing and the videos that the videographers put together. I think it's a really good opportunity. It has been a good opportunity for us to really build good relationships and help our community understand what law enforcement does on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And so that videographer has been kind of farmed out to different departments in the city, actually the county as well. So and just really pulled the time away from the police department. And so with the mayor and I talked about making that into a full-time position for 2021. So in the budget planning process for 2021, that was a full-time a request for us to make that videographer position a full-time position, and that was authorized to begin July 1st of this year. So we've already brought that through the Human Resources Committee. They've authorized the position, and so we will probably begin a recruitment in the next month or so, and by July, hopefully we'll have a full-time videographer position that'll be half-time with police duties and assigned to us half-time, and then half-time to the other city departments, the mayor's office, and some other projects there. So that's an exciting opportunity for us to get that position in full-time basis.
I'm just really excited about this. I've heard so many amazing compliments about the videos that Ethan's done, and I know that we're just going to go so much further with our own communications once we have somebody doing this more regularly for across the board.
You bet. Vaccinations. So I put on a survey to our department about a month ago in anticipation that law enforcement would have an opportunity to get vaccinated relatively soon, just to ask how many, what percentage of our staff would be interested in getting the vaccinations when made available. At that time, it was about 60%, similar to what Chief Kajawa mentioned in the fire department. And then we were authorized starting last week, Monday, to get vaccinations. We put a lot of information to our department, really encouraged our department to make those appointments and start the vaccination process. So I sent a secondary email out last week with a survey end of last week. Checked the data this morning. Right now, of the respondents that, of the people that have responded to that survey, 71% indicated that they would be getting vaccinated, either already have had the first, either scheduled their appointment, have had the vaccination, or plan to do so in the near future. So we're at a pretty good percentage rate, more than I anticipated, so I'm happy with that. I just wanted to give you an update on the public health and safety report that we're going to be compiling. That's going to start to roll out in March. So public health and safety is a subcommittee of the city council that I am staffed to, and we meet on a monthly basis and talk about public health and safety issues in the city. They help us, monitor taverns. They help us develop policy, such as our, the new policy that's going in around massage parlors in the city, so that we can impact public health and safety in a positive way. And one of the things that we always provide to them is a tavern report from one of our lieutenants who puts it together, and we talk about all of the incidents that happen at taverns across the city on a monthly basis. And so after some discussions and hearing some conversations from our city council members, it seemed apparent to me that they're not exactly understanding what the volume of work is that the police department does on a monthly basis. So I've worked on a report with our staff that is going to just identify a lot of different things to the city council in terms of what the work is that the police department does. So I'll just give you a rundown of what types of things will be in that report on a monthly basis, and I'll likely provide that to the commission as well, so you're aware of what activity is going on within the police department. So we're going to give an update on our community resource unit, specific to drug cases and heroin overdoses. We had 28 heroin overdoses in 2020, 5 of which were fatal. So we continue to see a significant issue with heroin in our community, and every one of those cases we investigate fully. In 58% of those cases, we were able to make criminal arrests and felony criminal arrests in those heroin overdoses. So that'll be something that we provide. We will provide information on current projects such as the massage parlors, the prostitution, the specific work that we're doing around those current issue topics that are going on in our community. We will give updates on traffic activity, crashes, traffic stops, and those kinds of citations and warnings, those kinds of information. We will give updates on major cases specific to our detective bureau, information from our school resource officers and victim resource unit. We'll give an update on overtime so that they can stay aware of where we are with our overtime budget. I'll give an update on citizen complaints and internal investigations and where we stand in those things. We'll give special event planning updates. The Public Health and Safety Committee approves all the special events that go on around our community, and so we'll give updates on planning and for safety and security at those events. We'll give updates on homelessness and crisis assessment response team data. And then we'll give, of course, general crime statistic updates on domestic violence calls for service, drunk driving offenses, those kinds of things. And then, of course, we'll still provide that tavern report. So I just wanted to give you an update on that and ask, is there anything else that you think would be helpful for the commission here or our city council to be aware of in regards to police activity?
Any questions or comments?
Okay. And then the last item that I have on there are mental health check-ins. We've talked a fair amount about police officer wellness at the commission level here. And so in the budget process, we were approved to do mental health check-ins. We have $10,000 in our budget for these. And these are sessions that we will mandate our police officers attend on an annual basis with a mental health professional. They'll be totally confidential. And, hopefully our goal will be to reduce stigma of seeking mental health care. We'll make sure that people are getting in front of a mental health professional, hopefully make further appointments as necessary. And so that's the goal of it. There's a couple of police departments in the state that are starting to do that and have seen some good success with that. So if we can keep our police officers in a good place mentally, I think we owe that to them and their families. But I think that's a bare bones of what a police department should be doing for their staff. So I'm appreciative that we're going to start that in 2021. And I've already interviewed vendors and will hopefully be signing a contract in the not too distant future for that.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief?
Thank you.
Okay. Our next meeting is February 22nd. We'll see everybody same place, same time, I believe. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Thank you, everybody.